Good day to you. Hope you're having a wonderful day. We are ready to read, we're in 2 Corinthians. We're ready to read chapter 11. Now, last time we read chapter 10, and at the end of chapter 10, Paul says, and this is going to be kind of a loose paraphrase, okay? Paul says, basically, let him who boasts, boast in the Lord, for it is not he who, commends or boasts of himself who is approved by God, but it's the one whom God praises and commends and boasts about. So, we need to think that way. It's not the one that we boast about. It's not, we shouldn't be boasting about ourselves anyway, but it's not us who boast about ourselves or even us boasting about each other that matters, though that's a good thing. If you know someone who's doing well and you brag on them a little bit, that's okay. It's okay to let them know they're appreciated, but, what really counts is whether or not God commends and praises us and approves of us. So, now that's the end of chapter 10, like I said. Now, 2 Corinthians chapter 11, I'm starting at verse 1. I am reading in the Amplified Bible. And this is Paul again. I wish you would bear with me while I indulge in a little foolishness. But indeed you are bearing with me as you read this. I am jealous for you with a godly jealousy, because I have promised you to one husband to present you as a pure virgin to Christ. But I am afraid that, even as the serpent beguiled Eve by his cunning, your minds may be corrupted and led away from the simplicity of your sincere and pure devotion to Christ. For you seem willing to allow it if one comes and preaches another. Let me reread that, I'm sorry. For you seem willing to allow it if one comes and preaches another Jesus whom we have not preached, or if you receive a different spirit from the one you received, or a different gospel from the one you accepted. You tolerate all this beautifully, welcoming the deception. Yet I consider myself in no way inferior to the so-called super apostles. Now here we have an issue, and Paul's being a little sarcastic. There were some people coming around preaching some false doctrine, and they were opposing Paul, and they were claiming that they had an association with the original 12 apostles that was superior to Paul's association. Thus the sarcastic reference to super apostles. But even if I am unskilled in speaking, yet I am not untrained in knowledge. I know what I am talking about. And we have to remember, and I think Paul is going to get at this, he is getting his knowledge directly from the Lord. He is one of the few people who ever saw the Lord. He saw the Lord on the road to Damascus. Alright. Yet I am not untrained in knowledge. I know what I am talking about, but we have made this evident to you in every way, in all things. Or did I perhaps sin by humbling myself so that you might be exalted and honored, because I preached God's gospel to you free of charge? Now, you might remember that Paul, and I think he mentioned Barnabas, they had some trade or some skill, and they were actually kind of paying their own way as they went, by and large. They did not need a lot of assistance from the congregations. I don't know what that trade was. I don't remember, or I don't know for sure if it was mentioned. These other traveling philosophers and religious people, whether they be real or unreal, they tended to charge for their, because, we're in Corinth, we're in Greece, and these people tended to charge for their lectures, their speeches. So, okay, hold on a second, my phone has frozen up. I'll be right back with you. Alright, sorry for that technical difficulty. Okay, so I'm going to start back in verse 7 with Paul. Or did I perhaps sin by humbling myself so that you might be exalted and honored because I preached God's gospel to you free of charge? I robbed other churches by accepting more than their share of financial support for my ministry to you. So Paul is saying he did accept some financial support from some church, some of the congregations. So there may be, it could be that maybe he couldn't always supply his own way. Then maybe at times whatever his trade and skill was, maybe there were places that wasn't very useful. All right. So anyway, and when I was with you and ran short financially, I did not burden any of you, for what I needed was fully supplied by the brothers Silas and Timothy, who came from Macedonia, the church at Philippi. So I kept myself from being a burden to you in any way, and will continue to do so. He's explaining why he doesn't charge them to speak to them. And maybe they misunderstood, because the tradition and the customary practice was that you would pay these speakers that spoke. And maybe for them that was, maybe that didn't make sense to them for some reason. All right. So, as the truth of Christ is in me, my boast of independence will not be silenced in the regions of Achaia, which is Greece, which is where Corinth was. Why? Because I do not love you or wish you. Oh, okay. Sorry. This is one of those rhetorical questions, and I was getting confused. Verse 11. I've read this before, honestly, and I just forgot. Why? Because I do not love you or wish you well or have regard for your welfare? God knows that I do. So, of course he does. But what I am doing, I will keep doing, for I am determined to keep this independence in order to cut off the claim of those who want an opportunity to be regarded just as we are in the things they brag about. Now, in other words, he's doing this, and he's going to keep doing this to refute that claim of those who they want to be regarded as an apostle, and they want to brag about these things. So verse 13, for such men are counterfeit apostles, deceitful workers, masquerading as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, since Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. So it is no great surprise if his servants also masquerade as servants of righteousness, but their end will correspond with their deeds. That's something to be aware of. I repeat then, let no one think that I am foolish, but even if you do, at least accept me as foolish, so that I too may boast a little. What I say in this confident boasting, I say not as the Lord would with his authority, but foolishly, since many boast of worldly things and brag about human accomplishments, I will boast too. Now he's being sarcastic, okay? And I guess he's a little frustrated with them that they've accepted these other, these other pretend apostles, counterfeit apostles. I think he's, a little frustrated with them that they accepted them and accepted their teaching and doctrine. All right, verse 19. For you, being so wise, gladly tolerate and accept the foolish like me. For you tolerate it if anyone makes you his slave, or devours you and your possessions, or takes advantage of you, or acts presumptuously, or hits you in the face. To my shame, I must say, we have been too weak in comparison to those pseudo-apostles who take advantage of you. Okay, I have almost said, I say it in a different way. He's saying we've been too nice. He's saying we've just been too nice compared to these other guys. I mean, in a way, that's essentially what he's saying. He's saying, oh, you go with these guys, you tolerate them and agree and believe whatever they tell you. And then us, and you just kind of ignore us because we've been too nice. That's kind of what he's saying. I have felt that way before. Okay, anyway. But in whatever anyone else dares to boast, I am speaking foolishly. I also dare to boast. Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they descendants of Abraham? So am I. Are they self-proclaimed servants of Christ? I am speaking as if I were out of my mind. I am more so, for I exceed them with far more labors, with far more imprisonments, beaten times without number, and often in danger of death. 5 times I received from the Jews 39 lashes. Now, the reason they did 39 lashes was they wanted to make sure, because in the law, no one was to receive more than 40 lashes. So what they did was they said, okay, we're going to only count to 39, so if there's a mistake, we will not have given them more than 40 lashes. That is considerate in a way, in an odd way. Anyway, continuing on with verse 25. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night and a day I have spent adrift on the sea. Many times on journeys exposed to danger. Many times on journeys exposed to danger from rivers, danger from bandits, danger from my own countrymen, danger from the Gentiles, danger in the city, danger in the wilderness, danger on the sea, danger among those posing as believers, in labor and hardship, often unable to sleep, in hunger and thirst, often driven to fasting for lack of food, in cold and exposure without adequate clothing. Besides those external things, there is the daily, inescapable pressure of my concern for all the churches. Who is weak, and I do not feel his weakness? Who is made to sin, and I am not on fire with sorrow and concern? So he's really telling them how it is for him. He's really explaining to them that he is the one. These other guys are just running around talking the talk. He's walking the walk, and he's really going through all these things for all the churches, including Corinth. If I must boast, I will boast of the things that reveal my weakness, the things by which I am made weak in the eyes of my opponents. The God and Father of the Lord Jesus, he who is blessed and to be praised forevermore, knows that I am not lying. In Damascus, the governor, and this says ethnarch, and I'm not familiar with that, under King Aretas, guarded the city of Damascus in order to arrest me, and I was actually let down in a basket through a window in the wall and slipped through his fingers. So this is the kind of thing that he's been going through. He's explaining to them that he really is living the life, and it's not an easy life. He's not just walking around getting paid to talk to people and making money and walking around living off of them. No, he's really in danger. He's really he's really doing what he's supposed to do, but it puts him in danger because there are these established places where the Jews, for one, do not like Christians, and then I think there's other people who don't like Christians because they see that somehow they see Jesus as undermining their authority, belief in Jesus, and they see it as maybe contrary to what they want the people to believe. So, because they have their own gods and their own beliefs. But either way, regardless of why, Paul goes through a lot of danger and troubles, and he talks about that here, and he explains to them that he is not having the easy life. He is not doing this, in a fun and easy manner. But, on the other hand, you have to think about it too. If you think of this as boasting, he's boasting of all the times that God has gotten him through and taken him through all of these things. Look at all these dangers, all these things. And if we think of our own lives, I bet we can think of a lot of times we could have been terribly injured or killed, and and we were blessed, and God got us through those or past those times. And here, he even had, what's he say, a night and a day I have spent adrift on the sea. Now that's a dangerous thing, and back then, to be rescued from drifting on the sea that long, that was probably not something that happened all the time. So, Anyway, so now he's not done, okay? We have to understand, chapter 11, Paul is not done. This is going to continue on into chapter 12. And he's going to explain further, and he's going to get to, I'm going to say in a way, he's going to get more to his point with them, but he's setting everything up in chapter 11. So, and that's just the way he did it. We broke that into chapters, of course. He wrote it. He didn't break this up into these chapters. So that is 2 Corinthians chapter 11, and we'll continue on with this theme and Paul's thoughts in the next chapter. I want to thank you for listening. Hope you have a wonderful day, and remember, God loves you.